In this video, I'm going to compare the iPhone XR with the iPhone 11. So the iPhone XR was launched in 2018. The iPhone 11 was launched in 2019. So these are newer devices. They're only separated by 1 year. The iPhone 11 is pretty much the successor to the iPhone XR. So these are going to be very similar devices, but let's get more into it. Currently, the iPhone XR is being sold for $500 straight from Apple. The iPhone 11 is $100 more at $600 brand new, but you can get these devices used. The iPhone XR is right now around $260 used on Swappa or something like that here in the US. The iPhone 11 can be found for $100 more, around $450, give or take. Currently, actually, the iPhone XR can be bought brand new from prepaid on Cricket for $250. So I think that's a very good deal. You get a lot of value from the XR. And there's not much that separates these two devices. So yeah, the iPhone XR was released in 2018 and iPhone 11 released in 2019. So basically both of these phones are 4G LTE devices. These do not have 5G. So these are still very similar devices. These phones are exactly the same for the overall dimensions, 6 inches tall, 3 inches wide, 0.33 inches thick. So these are bigger devices, but they got small bezels and it's mostly all screen. So these aren't overbearing like the Plus models of before. So these are hefty devices. They weigh in at 6.8 ounces. They feel very hefty in your hand, very premium. They have a glass front, glass back, aluminum frame, so they're made from the exact same materials. These are pretty much the same device in your hand. Very premium with the feeling with the glass. You know you have quality when you hold both of these in your hand. Both have eSIM technology built in. That means that you don't have to physically have a SIM card to activate service on these. You do it straight from the device. And also it's good to have, it's good for travelers or something. You have two different data services, two different phone numbers, so it gives you options right there. Very versatile. They both have dust and water resistance. The XR has IP67, dunk it in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. iPhone 11, dunk it in water up to 2 meters for 30 minutes with that IP68. So a little bit better in water and dust resistance on the iPhone 11. They both have the exact same screen as well, the liquid Retina IPS LCD display, 6.1 inches. So again, this is a nice size phone with a nice size screen. You get a lot of screen, not a lot of bezels. You get 79% screen to body ratio on both. For the resolution, it's 828 by 1792. That translates to 326 ppi, which is pretty good. It's not going to blow you away, but it looks very good to your eye when you look at this display. That's average. Nowadays, more premium devices have north of 400 ppi. That's what I would typically look at, is the ppi, pixels per inch. For the software, the XR launched with iOS 12. The iPhone 11 launched with iOS 13. So very similar, 1 year apart, very newer versions of software when they first launched. And they both are running iOS 14. So they're running the exact same software. If you were to hold both of these in your hand and deal with the software and start doing things with them, interacting with them, they'll feel exactly the same. The iPhone XR has the A12 Bionic chip powering it, and the iPhone 11 has the A13 Bionic chip. You're not going to see a lot of difference in speed or performance. These are going to feel almost exactly the same. Over time, maybe you'll see a difference, but right now, there's no real difference to see when you run all your apps from the App Store or your stock apps such as FaceTime, iMessage, AirDrop, iMovie, all that good stuff will run perfectly fine. There's no difference in performance, really. Very, very snappy devices. For the storage, both of these start off at 64 gigs of storage, no expandable storage, obviously. The difference in RAM, iPhone XR has 3 gigs of RAM, iPhone 11 has 4 gigs of RAM. So that's probably the one big difference, is the RAM. You won't notice it right now, but after a few years and a couple of iOS updates, you'll probably start seeing the difference. Usually that makes a big difference, is how much RAM the device has. But right now, both of these are pretty snappy, holding apps in the background and stuff like that. Both of these phones have good cameras on them. You have a iPhone XR has a single 12 megapixel camera, but the iPhone 11 has a dual camera setup. It has a 12 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide. So that's the main difference between these two phones, is that the iPhone 11, the most noticeable difference on the outside and the inside is probably going to be the camera. You have an extra camera, so they added a ultra wide lens on the back of the device. They both shoot video in 4K, but if you don't really use that ultra wide camera, you're not going to see difference really in quality. They're very, very good cameras taking pictures and video, except, the iPhone XR is coming in at a little bit of a lower price, a lot more value coming from that. So camera department, unless you use the ultra wide, it's not going to make a big difference. Selfie cameras are different though. The XR has a 7 megapixel shooter. The iPhone 11 has a 12 megapixel shooter. 1080p video on the XR, 4K video on the iPhone 11. So the camera systems are going to be a difference for these devices if you had to pick any noticeable difference on these phones. Both of these phones do not have headphone jacks. They do have stereo speakers. You're gonna have to go wireless if you want to connect your mic, your headphones, your wireless speakers and stuff like that. And both of these have Bluetooth 5.0, so that's how you're going to connect your Apple Watch, your AirPods, your wireless speakers, your wearables, your Fitbit, pretty much everything that's wireless. Both of these will connect fine with all these devices that you want to pair up. Both of these phones also share NFC. It's going to be mostly used for Apple Pay, and they both rely on the Lightning port for charging. Both of these phones, for the unlocking and the security, both of them have Face ID, exactly the same. It might be a little bit faster on the iPhone 11, nothing too noticeable. And that's why both of these phones have nice large area of displays, because they don't have the home button, they have Face ID. One little bonus on the iPhone 11 has ultra wideband support. Honestly, it's not, you won't really notice it for most people. It's that ultra wideband it has very few uses right now. For example, with the AirTags, you could find your AirTags more precisely, but other than that, I don't find a lot of use for it. Battery on these devices is very, very awesome. The iPhone XR has a 2942 milliamp battery. The iPhone 11 has a little bit more at 3110 milliamps. So both of these have around 3000 milliamp batteries. Very good battery life. That's all I have to say. The iPhone XR started the trend of a more modern iPhone with all screen that has great battery life of any iPhone that I ever had, up to that point. And that carried over into the iPhone 11. Very good battery life. It will last you pretty much all day. Both of these phones have fast charging, 50% charge in 30 minutes. You got 15 watts on the XR, 18 watts on the iPhone 11, so not too much of a difference, and they both support wireless charging. So after comparing the specs, these are very similar devices. You're gonna get difference in price. The XR, I would recommend it to anybody. Even if you could get it for $250 brand new, I would take advantage of that, because it's still going to be good for several years. It's still, there's not much difference between the XR and the iPhone 11, except you got a little bit of difference in RAM. To me, that's the biggest difference that's going to matter in the future. If you plan on having these devices for a while, that extra gig of RAM will go farther in a few years when you get newer iOS updates. The iPhone 11, it's good if you want that extra camera on board and you really care about selfie video and selfie quality. But other than that, I can't see too many differences. I would recommend either of these. You're usually going to find $100 of price difference between these. But in the used department, you can get the iPhone XR, and in the prepaid department, you can get it for $250. So that's a very good deal if you can take advantage of that. The iPhone 11, you can either get it for $600 brand new, or for around $450 used. That's the lowest you'll probably find it. And when you compare these to flagships that cost more in the, or newer models that are like $700, $800, $1,000 phones, these will match it pound for pound in performance and in quality with the pictures and the video. So I would definitely recommend both of these devices. iPhone 10R will get much more value with $1, but if you want longer support and better performance in the future, the iPhone 10R, or I'm sorry, the iPhone 11 will be the phone for you in the future. Well, thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.